Hello, I am Jen Wilson from iamjenwilson.com and I am here to give you a small routine for helping your hips. So if your hips are really tight, your glutes are really tight, or your pelvis feels like it's tilted off kilter or a little bit twisted, this is going to help get a little bit of rebalancing going on. So the first thing I'll get you to do is check how tight your glutes are. So my neck is a wee bit tight, so that's why I'm using a cushion at the back of my head. That allows the chin to stay down for the neck to be long. So going into a figure of 4 stretch to start with. Ankle up onto the knee. Deciding, do you want your ankle flexed at 90 degrees, so toes pointed up, or do you want to let the foot relax? And that will depend what's going on in around your hip. Starting to move this bottom foot closer in, you can either keep the toes on the floor or bring the foot up. Notice how much this top knee is trying to turn in towards your body. We want to try and keep as much as we can pushing it out the way, and that will give you an indication of what is tight and around the hip and in around your backside. Now if you struggle to reach through to this bottom leg, you could use a resistance band around the shin so that you can keep the head and shoulders rested back and use the band or belt to pull that in. And just notice how this feels. So we'll do this little assessment on each side because both sides are going to be different. So notice how much does this knee want to come in? Do you want to have your ankle flexed here, or do you want to have the toes relaxed? And then what happens is you start to bring this bottom foot in, maybe lifting it off the floor. Where are you feeling it on this other side? And both sides can feel completely different depending on what's going on in around the hips, what position your pelvis is sitting on, what's going on even at your lower back. So once we've got an idea of how that feels, we then want to come up to a seated position, legs out in front, and then lean over to one side, bend the knee back, send the toes back, and see if you can sit upright here. Now if it's not possible to sit upright, then stay leaning over and use your exhale to gently send the hips down to the floor. So we're trying to get a little bit of movement in the lower back and around the hips. If you can sit upright, allow yourself to sit upright and try and have both your butt cheeks rested into the floor. So toes are pointed out behind, then going to bring that foot round so that the sole of the foot rests into the inner thigh. Doesn't matter if this knee is nowhere near the floor. Notice, is there anywhere that feels particularly tight? Is there anywhere that you can feel any kind of attention seeking? From here we're going to bring this foot over to the outside of the knee. Let the foot rest to the floor if this is possible. Now if this isn't possible, let the foot rest to the inside. So if you've had a hip replacement, crossing your leg over is not advised. So do not cross that over. It might be that your tummy's in the way, it might be that your leg is too big, and that does not allow that to happen. Then this foot here, we're going to start to walk it a bit further over and bringing it back slightly. Now what shape you make here will totally depend on the structure of your thigh, the flexibility at your knee, the flexibility at your hip. If you use this foot to kind of worm its way across the floor, that can sometimes help get a better lengthening of the muscles rather than just trying to pull it over. So using the foot to worm its way over. And all the time we're noticing, are both butt cheeks on the floor, or do we need to let our hands come down to give the upper body a bit of support here? We're going to go all the way back to the first position, so sending those toes out behind you and then bringing that in. So you can move through this as fluidly as you like, pausing anywhere that feels like it needs a little bit more time or a little bit more attention. And then once you've done that a couple of times to one side, release that leg off. Just notice how the hip feels. This leg might now feel a little bit longer than the other side. And then switch it over and let's start going on the other side. So as we come over here, the experience here might be totally different. So you might be able to sit up where you couldn't on the other side, or you might need to slightly lean over and spend a bit of time with that hip rocking in and out. So I'm feeling this in completely different places when I'm working this leg than I did when I was working the other side. Sole of the foot round, and you might even notice that this thigh is a lot closer to the floor than it was on the other side. Just, we're not symmetrical, So expecting things to look symmetrical is a little bit unrealistic. And again, only if it feels right, bring the foot over. And then worming the foot over a bit further and seeing what shape you can make here. And there's no forcing. If things feel tight, that little rock from side to side can sometimes help. And then go back through it again. So sending the toes back, bringing the foot round, making sure you're not holding your breath as you do this, so keep the breath nice and smooth. It might be useful for you to stay at one position for a full inhale, then a full exhale before you move on. And then walking that foot over, seeing how that feels. Then once we've done that, we're going to come back to lying on our back. We've got another thing to do before we go back and reassess how everything feels. Bring your hands up to your collarbone. Now I'm showing you this on my right side. I would advise you to start on your left side first. And come to underneath the collarbone. I'll just sit up to show you where I am. So my collarbone's here, my fingers are here, and I'm pressing up as though I'm trying to get underneath the collarbone. And then we're going to rub vigorously for about 30 seconds. As you're doing this, you're taking deep breaths in and out. You're noticing how tight things feel. If things feel really painful, back off it slightly. If things feel alright, you can maybe press in a little bit more firmly. And as you're pressing in and moving, you're not rubbing your hands across the top of the skin, you're pressing the fingers in and moving the skin so that we're releasing the fascia that's up around the collarbone. Then do the same thing off to the other side. So rubbing vigorously from side to side, making sure you're getting those deep breaths in and out. And be aware, does this feel different on one side than it does the other? And then once you've done about 30 seconds, and if it's really tender, you might want to stay here for a bit longer. You might want to work it for up to a minute. You can do that. Once you've done both sides, let the hands rest down. With the feet on the floor, you're then going to pull the toes back and really actively pull the toes back. Heels are staying down on the floor. I'm going to hold this for about 5 seconds, keeping the breath smooth, keep pulling the toes up so you're really feeling the shins activate, and then let that release down. Pause for about 5 seconds. I'll stay, maybe not stay as long as 5 seconds just to move you through the video. Pull the toes up, really squeeze in, big deep breaths in and out. Holding that for about 5 seconds. And then releasing it down, and then you're going to do that one more time. Pull the toes back, keep pulling, can you pull a little bit harder? Can you pull a little bit harder? Keep it active, keep it active, keep it active. And then release that down. Give your body any movement that it feels like it needs. And go back up onto the knees. So we're going to go back to that figure of 4 stretch to see if there has been any improvement in the glutes and your backside. So bring the knee up. What angle is this knee at now? Or is it the same angle but it feels more comfortable? Is there no change at all? Your experience is unique to you. And then bringing that foot up and seeing just how things feel as you release there. If it feels really useful stretch, stay there for as long as you like. Make sure that you do the other sides. Notice what's happened there, if anything. And then bringing yourself up. And then I would advise you to check your pelvis standing rather than sitting, but sitting's okay too. Pop your hands onto the pelvis and just notice, does it still feel off kilter? Does it feel a bit more levelled up? If it was slightly twisted, has that twist untwisted at all? Any questions about this? Fire me over an email, jen@jenwilson.com, or contact me on any of the social media channels. And yeah, any questions, just ask.